Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
And welcome back to America's Heroes Group with our roundtable and our partner, National Nurses United. Today is Saturday, October 15th, 2022. October is Breast Cancer, Mental Health, National Disability, and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have our partner on the line, Miss Adelena Marshall. She's a Veterans VA Mental Health RN, registered nurse. She's going to talk about the November elections and also some of the things we've been having. We had some support. She's had some support with the National Nurses United from Senator Sherrod Brown and Representative Mark Takano. Both support National Nurses United and the VA Employee Fairness Act. And we want to talk about that and how that is important to veterans around the country. How are you doing today?
I'm good, and thank you for having myself and NNU on this show today and allowing us to share important information with our veterans who are in your audience.
So how did these two government officials get behind National Nurses United to promote some of the things and issues that you guys are concerned about, particularly when it comes to the VA Employee Fairness Act? Because we know from previous shows we talked about that there is a problem with the way nurses are treated in the VA system. Lack of support, crazy hours, not necessarily getting the proper equipment, being overworked, all kinds of different issues. So tell us what they see and why they're supporting you and how they got to support you.
Well, they introduced this bill once they start gaining knowledge of the impact that this bill was having on recruitment and retention of nurses, and not just nurses. This also include doctors, physical therapists, dentists, dental assistant. In this group, we're referred to as Title 38 employees. Other employees are Title 5, but we're more restricted being a Title 38. This also includes eye doctors, chiropractors, nurse anesthetists, physician assistants, and extended function dental auxiliary. And we're prohibited from negotiating over matters such as professional conduct or competency, peer review, or changes to employees' compensation. As we know, there's a critical shortage now of these personnel, and especially nurses. And many hospitals, including the VA, has problems in recruiting professional staff who is really needed, the eyes and ears of our patient, and at the VA, we're the eyes and ears of our veterans. And so we're constantly short-staffed. Within a few days ago, someone alerted me that one nurse was covering 2 units and had another staff member that was not orientated or trained to work on that unit, and they're just juggling everything. And we are limited as to what we can say regarding these issues. So the bill in the House is 1948, and in the Senate is 771. These bills, if passed, would not allow federal employees to strike. All it would do is give us fairness at the bargaining table. If you go to any of the hospitals here in the Chicago area or in the country, private sector, they have that right. But for us at the VA, we do not have that right.
And that is the right to strike, right? Is that what you're speaking of?
Right. We wouldn't even, they have the right to strike, but we would never have that right to strike as a federal employee. We would only have the right to come to the table to talk about recruiting and retaining top talent to the VA. And we already started as a deficit before COVID even hit. So we lost many nurses to retirement. We're looking at 2025 already, trying to anticipate how many nurses will be leaving the field with retirement or finding other positions in other areas that will pull these nurses from the bedside. So we need incentives to bring them to the VA. We want top talent for our veterans. They have given their lives, they have given limbs, they have given their mental health to this country to make things better for all of us. And if there's no one there to advocate for them, who will? So we do ask that Congress and the Senate look at this bill and pass it and give us the opportunity to bring talent, very good talent, to the VA. Some of our nurses, for example, they'll go to the agency. The agency may be paying double or triple their pay or 2.5 times their pay that they're making at the VA. We understand that, they won't be getting maybe benefits in exchange for that, but we do have to bring our nurses and other critical care employees up a little bit from where we stand now. We are so short. I mean, I cannot even. We're critically short. To at a point, if it was private sector, they would close some of the floors, which many in the private sector are closing floors and are closing hospitals because they cannot get nurses to come in to care for their patients. We don't want to become a desert or a ghost town lacking employees here at the VA. We want to provide the services to our veterans that they have earned and that they have been promised. We don't want them telling them, on one hand, we promise to do this, we're going to take care of you, we're offering you this, we're offering you home health care, we're offering you telehealth, and then when they come to get it, there's nobody there to provide it. We have not yet been replaced by robots. This is a hands-on job. We offer our veterans a lot of support, encouragement, emotional parachute when they come here. We don't just see them and let them go. We nurture them, and we care for them. They're like our family. And as in any situation, I wouldn't want my loved one to have to go in the hospital, and that nurse has to make a decision on who's in more pain, who should I take care of first, what child should I look at first when I've got 3 or 4 of them crying. They may be hungry, they may be wet, they may be in pain. So who do I go to first?
So what can be done?
This is not a balancing act.
So what can be done, and what's in the bill to help alleviate or solve some of these problems? Is it mostly more pay and training, or is there other things?
So the bill would allow more training. It would allow more pay. We still would not probably be competitive with private sector, but we are looking for where we can bargain over forms of compensation, award, bonuses, overtime, special scheduling arrangement. Right now, I'll just say all our nurses, I'm not going to even point to our more junior nurses, but they're looking to have more time home with their family. I have one situation where they're denying them being able to work 12-hour shifts. We don't understand why. Because that would cut down.
So
that would help us to cover off tour shifts.
How many hours? What's a typical shift right now?
So in this one particular area, this management is saying absolutely not, just 8 hours. So we cannot cover the off-tour shifts with an 8-hour person. If we had 12-hour nurses, they would come in maybe at 7 in the morning and stay till 8 at night, or come in at 11:30 and stay till midnight, or come in at 11:30 at night and stay till the next morning. So we have done this in other areas, and we've just started negotiating or bargaining over some of this, but we still have managers that are saying no, and the staffs are leaving. They don't want to be disrupted from their family. COVID has really made everybody aware of how important their family members are. And our nurses, and many of them are just starting their family. Many of the ones that are older are losing family members, and they want to be there and to spend that valuable time with them, as well as care for our veterans. We're torn.
So how has Representative or Senator Sherrod Brown and Representative Mark Takano supported this bill? What have they said about National Nurses United effort to try to get this bill passed?
Well, they're very supportive. As a matter of fact, they've got over 200 other members of the House and the Senate to sign on to this bill. They realize the importance of the federal workforce in the VA to have a voice in the VA and in the care of our veterans. And they also know that this is important to all the promises and the other programs that Congress and the Senate has passed to help support our veterans. Our veterans are those who have served their time, and they're coming out. And they're coming out to what? We don't want them to come home to an empty house. We don't want them to come to an empty hospital. We want them to come here and know that they're going to be cared for.
So what's the likelihood for success in this, particularly in this type of economy now? Because in our current economy, there is labor shortages everywhere. And we mentioned earlier on this, even on our broadcast just now, we have already acknowledged that there is even a shortage in the civilian sector for nurses. So even if you do raise wages, which is still not going to be competitive with civilian wages, and you get better training, how do you solve the labor gap that's current?
Well, the one thing that I can say, and when I came to the VA, I came to care for the veterans. I could bite my tongue now because I do remember saying, oh, well, salary is not that important. I need to be there to care for them. And I came when the Saudi conflict started. And many of our nurses who come here feel that way. Many of our staff, doctors, nurses, dentists, they are part of the military. They came out of the military and came to work at the VA to care for their fellow vets. So that's a draw. It's an honor to be a federal nurse. It's an honor to care for our veterans. So many of us prefer to be here than to be in a more glitzy surrounding because our job has the purpose. We see our veterans quite often, the same ones, and so they become endeared to us. Where in other areas, you go and you have surgery, they never see you again. You know, you might go to another doctor or another hospital for something else. But our veterans come here. There's veterans who have grown old with me through time. And it's a joy to see them. It's a joy to see that they're recovering. It's a joy to see them in the halls and they're dressed up and they're proud to show me the progress that they've made in their life. And it's a joy on my end to see them and to, you know, give them a nod of having walked that road and now come to their destination of recovery.
So it sounds like that really, if you raise the wages and also provide better training, that perhaps you might be able to retain some of those retiring or service members that are coming out of the military, out of active duty, maybe go into the VA system to try to stop that.
We're trying. Yes, we're trying so hard to retain our nurses, but they also have families that they have a responsibility to. And you know what? If I go to one of our stores and an item is, and I enjoy going to that store, and an item might be a few cents or a few dollars more, and I'm treated and I'm welcome there, I will probably go back there and shop. And so it's the same here for our our staff. If they come here, they know that the VA is caring for them and allowing us to do our very best and providing us with enough support. We understand that occasionally we might be short. We have some areas where some of the staff, many of the staff members on a unit became infected with COVID and had to be out. We know that. We understand that. We'll pull together for that. But to start off understaffed, severely understaffed, where you can't even get RNs to take orders off for a patient, is very concerning. That you don't have RNs. We're the engine of the hospital. The doctors cannot do what we do.
True. That's very true. When you apply to be a nurse, do you apply for a specific location or specific VA medical facility, or do you get put wherever they assign you? Like in the military?
No, you can apply for wherever you want to work. If someone comes here and they don't have the experience, we can train them for an area that they may want to go to. But many of them may come in with specific ideals of where they want to work. I know one nurse, we call her infusion nurse, and she came in to do cancer treatment for our veterans, and now she's going to be starting in November in ICU. Some of them, they're not quite sure what they want to do. Some of them want to be bedside nurses no matter what, and they're not going to leave the bedside. Others may eventually want to work from home and do telehealth, or work in the clinics, having more or less kind of a 9 to 5. But we're trying to get the clinic hours extended so that our patients who are now working can come here before or after work. And by giving the nurses alternate work schedules, then we can have coverage for them to come in up to maybe 6 o'clock at night or something. Right now our clinics close about 4:30.
Wow, that's early.
That's early, and if you're working,
right, get off work
and with the traffic and all of that, I mean, we should have later hours to accommodate our veterans.
What time do
we
they
are
open?
extending our women's health clinic.
What time do the clinics open?
Pardon?
What time do the clinics open?
7:30.
7:30.
7:30. Wow. Mm-hmm. We have nurses that would like to come in at 6, and that way they can get all the paperwork done and then be ready, to see the patients and stuff timely, instead of taking time away from patient care to do paperwork and stuff that we have to do. Our paperwork takes a long time to complete. Our computer system could move a little bit faster. So there's a lot of variables in the nurses being able to complete their care for the vet. I mean, many times we can't even take lunch. We're working through our lunch hour. That's a sign that you do not have enough nurses to cover your care.
Wow. The reason why I brought that up is because there's there's a disparity amongst the VA medical centers across the country. There's a rating system. If you go to the VA website, you can look up your local VA hospital and see what the rating is. It goes from like 1 star to 5 stars. And there's a lot of facilities around the country that have, pretty good care, but there's also some places that are known for some horror stories.
Well, that's true, but the one thing about the VA, we're transparent. You go to private sector, all of that's not reported. One thing about the government, everything is reported. And we have a lot of eyes on the care that we produce for the patients. We have a lot of other departments that monitor what goes on to the VA. And if our patients aren't satisfied, they get a form in the mail that they can check off, if they're satisfied or not. But one thing that leads to dissatisfaction is a long line. That's in anything.
Yeah.
People want to get in. They got things to do. We need to see them. The only way we can do that is to have adequate staff.
That's true. But I think if they can get behind and try to improve or have a system to improve some of these troubled or struggling VA medical facilities, like the one in D.C., for example, has had notorious, I'm not sure how it is today,
Well,
but notorious
I
stories.
can honestly say this, that I believe our director here at Jesse Brown, I'm speaking the truth, is our visibly, if you come here, you will see changes here. And I'm proud to say that. However, there are things beyond what he can do, and that is recruiting the staff to come here.
I've always liked the care at Hines and also at Jesse Brown. I've always thought that because I've taken veterans there. I haven't gotten care there myself because I have private health care, and then also I'm a National Guard veteran, so I don't get the same benefits as someone who's been active duty or been deployed. So the thing I've seen is that the care has always been very good, and they've always been patient and caring, and it's very expedient compared to what I've seen in the civilian world here in Chicago. But other places around the country, there needs to be a system to try to get or at least share some of the success stories that we have here in Chicago with places around the country, so they could bring some of these struggling medical centers up to par. Because there's still that push out there. There's still language out there, particularly in Congress, to privatize the VA system, to kind of wind it down, to have veterans go to civilian care.
But that, I think, would result in lesser care, because some of the things I hear, trying to get equipment for the veterans and things like this, it could be a nightmare. And without the dedicated employees that we do have, there are a lot of things that probably wouldn't go as smoothly as we make it go now. But the shorter the staff, the harder it is for us to produce that level of care for our veterans.
So what do you want veterans to do across the country? What can veterans do and civilians do to,
we would love for the veterans to be involved in this, to contact their congressman and their senator in the areas that we are reaching through this podcast, to let them know that they should pass this bill, House 1948, and a Senate bill 771, Senate Bill 771. Encourage them to pass the Employees Fairness Act. We're still working without a contract since 2012. Our contract has not been signed, but we're still producing the high level of care for our veterans. The contract is very important to us, but it doesn't exceed the concerns that we have for our veterans. And we want to make sure that they're cared for. And this bill would allow us to bring in, better experienced nurses. Everybody's vying for that, even over education. The experience that we bring to the table is very important when you're seeking care anywhere. So, we're reaching out all the communities. We need Hispanic nurses. We need nurses from every race in America, every nationality. We need them here because our veterans have come from a lot of nationalities, and we need them to be like, see people who are like them to care for them.
I would really love to see more telemedicine, getting more nurses in to get telemedicine up and it's already up and running, but to get it more expansive, so that way people in rural areas, people that don't live close to a facility or close to a clinic or a medical facility, that they can get the care from VA treatment, particularly with all the new cases coming on. We just talked about burn pits. We just talked about a lot of the legislation has passed for people to get treatment for toxic exposure. So you're going to have a lot of questions on a floodgate of people coming back from Afghanistan or from Iraq who have questions and concerns about their health and who are going through a lot of confusing stuff. Their bodies are changing in ways that they never thought was even possible.
Right, just like the president just addressed the burn pits. that our veterans were exposed to, by being stationed over in the Middle East. And there are other health care that's associated with just being around, being in the desert environment and stuff. So we need staff that's going to be trained for that. We have one training right now that takes 8 hours to complete. And we're just saying, we want to do this training, but how do we pull people from the bedside to get this training done? Because we're so short, we cannot lose one person.
Wow. Ms. Adelena Marshall, we appreciate your time. We're running out of time, so we got to come back to this topic and really get to the bottom of what's going on with this. And hopefully we'll go online, veterans, go online, civilians, and see what's happening with the VA Employee Fairness Act, read up about it, get the support behind it. Thanks for your time, Adelena.
Thank you very much for having us. And I encourage all our veterans and listeners to vote.